Why the character of Zero works. This video is being done in response to the last video doing decently at least. So I want this one to be kind of a special one. I want this to be a character study, and maybe this video does well. Maybe I've already written 2 other character studies for characters in this series, but who knows? The only way to figure out is if this video does well, hahaha. But I've written out a couple character studies for the characters of the Terralong series, and I think it'd be really cool for me to start off with the main character, which is Zero, because why not? He's the main character of the series, and I'm talking about the series, so why not let this first video start with him? For a brief introduction of how the show works, they both take place in different periods of his life, and we get a good look at how his brain works, how he deciphers the things that happens in his life, and how he views his friends and even strangers. So let's flip the script and talk about how I view Zero's character within these 2 shows. I think the best way to start talking about this character is to go back to Terralong, obviously, and also it gives me a good reason to rewatch the series. Ooh. We learn right off the bat how personable Zero is because he's the narrator, main character, and creator of the show itself. It feels like we're inside his mind, hearing his thoughts on the world, and that is made even more clear because we see his consciousness in the form of a walking armadillo, which almost makes it feel invasive on our part. An integral part of understanding his character in Terralong is his relationship to Alice. They met at a punk concert. Sarah was actually the one who introduced the 2 to each other, and Zero tells us that he instantly fell head over heels for her. But he couldn't risk talking to her or saying too much because he didn't want to seem like a loser. So their developing relationship happened through MSN Messenger, where they could be themselves and didn't have to worry about their body language or lack thereof in the real world. And I think that's something all of us can relate to, especially us who've grown up during this era where everybody has the internet, has social media in the palm of their hands, and it's a lot easier and more comforting to say stuff behind the screen than actually say stuff out loud. That's why people go viral on Twitter all the time for bad takes. Alice is somebody who believed in Zero. She's the only one who initially knew he wanted to be a cartoonist, and she encouraged him to pursue it. So in a way, this first show was kind of like a thank you letter to Alice for always supporting him. He claims to be taking things slow with Alice. He claims that they are both taking it slow. They both have feelings for each other and they are doing nothing about it. It's the way he likes it. He can keep a good friend to talk to and still have those feelings intact. Nothing has to change. This is his character. Another example of how this show tries to display this character is the Netflix bit. He goes on a rant about not knowing what show to watch on Netflix, and you'd think it to be minuscule, just press a shuffle button or press something on your watch list, but he goes on this spiel about not having something to watch, never having something to watch, having some stuff to watch but waiting for the perfect time to watch it, and just ending up scrolling and yelling at the TV that he can't find anything to watch, just to eventually go to sleep and lay there and understand it wasn't the TV that was the problem. He's the problem. He's missing something. But what? He's a person who has an opinion on every small, minuscule thing, to the point where he gets annoyed by it as well, almost kind of nihilistic, maybe pessimistic. I'm not really sure the proper word to use there. He very much so seemingly believes the world revolves around him, so it really helps him out in his life that he has people like Sarah and Seko who are there to kind of keep him level-headed, keep him grounded, and also keep him out for ice cream. This was shown well when he was getting a call from Alice and he ignored it. He proceeded to go on a tirade about not being able to go on any social media because she'll notice. He can't tweet, go on Facebook, open WhatsApp, nothing without her knowing he is online, and that he definitely saw that she tried to make a call to him. What he fails to realize is maybe she doesn't care that much. Maybe she had something to confess. Maybe she didn't, but he didn't pick up. And the only thing people do after that is go on with their day. Unless you're dating, of course, then definitely call back or don't do anything. Please don't do anything. He does this a lot to Alice and the others, where he may get a call, he may get a text, but he might not be in the mood to answer said call or text at the time, so he proceeds to ignore it and then gets in his own head. He overthinks the situation and he ends up ignoring said call or text for a couple of weeks and then respond like this is his first time seeing a message. Come on, man, do better. He has a pride that he can't get rid of, and it definitely shows in the first series at least. There's this motif that he and Alice are following in the first series. Their lives are directionless and they're afraid to think about what's to come next, so they keep going in hopes that the outcome they want will happen. In other words, they're turning on the paper, but not sure if it's still following on the dotted line or not. It could be far off, but at least they could still think that they're on the right path and they're making progress. And somehow, like clockwork, he ended up at a spot on the dotted line where he became a comic, somehow still in the right spot into becoming a cartoonist that he always wanted to be. And even more proof that he made it is the fact that I'm sitting here looking at an English dub of the show, a good English dub. Not even Squid Game has that. Okay, now it's time to talk about two things that are going on with this character that I think are important to me. So to warn you guys, I'm going to be self-diagnosing this character. I am not an expert at this. I am just going over what I see from the behaviors and patterns that he exudes within the show. And we've been talking about one this entire time. Yes, one that this entire series has been trying to scream at us at this point. And that to me is his OCD. I don't think they ever say it in the show, but he has clear signs of OCD, from overthinking to insanely ritual schedules and being overly dramatic when he's the slightest bit off of it, and even his social isolation that we've noticed on multiple occasions. He also lacks emotion and the understanding of certain social cues or phrases, like in the scene where Alice and her boyfriend had a heated argument and they broke up. She called him over and they sat there hugging. This was such a lovely scene, well shot, just letting the characters sit there and not say a word for a moment. I also get a little emotional looking at it, so let's keep going before I start crying. He says he couldn't remember much of the convo, but one thing he does remember is her saying,
"It's really not important to me whether you're always here for me, Zero, but I need to know that when you are with me, you're really here, you know?"
Which I have a hard time understanding the phrasing myself, but what I think she was trying to say was she wants his attention and wants him to be there because he wants to be there, not because she wants him to be there. It's almost like a reverse confession in a sense, but maybe more platonic. But the fact that he didn't understand it is the most important part. He didn't say out loud that he didn't understand it, thank God he didn't, but we can hear his thoughts, so we know the turmoil that's going on in his mind, trying to understand the phrasing, saying it's weird that she would say that. Does she not trust him? He's always the one to be there for somebody, so why would she even ask that in the first place? Also wanted to say anxiety during this part originally, but I decided not to because of the dire situation that's going on within the first season. I think it could be just due to that, so you know, let's not count those chickens. Let's not count those chickens and let's just grab anxiety and throw it out the window and continue. So there's a scene on a train where him and his friends are heading somewhere, and Zero's seemingly distracted. He talks about how cold it is for a little too long for it to sound like a normal rant of his. The armadillo is even calling him out on trying to keep his mind occupied with other stuff, so he won't ever have to think about it. What is he afraid of thinking about? Well, he's afraid of going to the funeral of Alice, who killed herself. It's almost a taboo name for him at this point, barely being brought up while they're at her parents' house. But the underlying context is there. This whole series was just coming to terms with the fact that the world doesn't revolve around him. Alice's life wasn't his. He didn't cause her to do that. He didn't stop Sarah from hooking up with Alice. It just didn't happen. People have their own lives and make their own decisions based on their own personal taste and interests. It's really kind of a bittersweet theme to the story if you are someone who always assumes you're the main character. Yes, you are the main character of your life, but Joe's also the main character of his life. Sora is also the main character of her life. TK and Kari are also the main characters of their life. It's easy to fall into this way of thinking where other people's lives revolve around yours, but remember, they don't. I always have to bring up this moment. It's genuinely such a good moment. When that realization hits, everything starts crashing down around him. The world opens up. Everyone was no longer voiced by Zero. They all had their own voices that were finally being heard by him. I really enjoyed the way that they did that. The message in that decision was loud and clear. His character in this world feels a lot more confident compared to the character in the previous series. A good time has passed since that one, and he's a happy man now. He's finally reached the goal that he set for himself. He is now a cartoonist and has a successful series on Netflix called Terror Along the Dotted Line. So, you know, why wouldn't he be happy? Why wouldn't he be feeling confident with himself? if there's something that goes against his views, he'll stand up and fight for it. He actually has a backbone now when stepping up to both Sarah and Cesare when their viewpoints didn't align with his. He just seems overall like a more well put together person, with the only thing seemingly in his way was if he had the right to stand up for what he believed in or not, due to him being a famous person now. Does he give up the right to have an opinion because maybe somebody will think it's a publicity stunt? Maybe he accidentally alienates half of his audience. But at the end of the day, he goes after his goal and fights for what he feels is right. I'm not going to repeat the details of the second show in an extensive thing because I feel like the video I did a few weeks ago really described what the show was for Zero to a good extent in that one, so I'm just gonna let that one go for itself. You guys should go check that video out. It was very good, and obviously if you made it this far, you know, appreciate that, and also this character study of Zero. I appreciate you for your time in watching this. Hope you take your time and watch more of my stuff. And with that being said, I'll see each and every one of you next time. Goodbye.